What the fuck? Made my cousin Mervin and my head must have been y'all. Come on, dog, just me and my girl and a gun. Stuck in the slum, connected like a mouth. Yo, don't know nada. Ask mom.
If you're going to be asking for money, you should ask us in our language. Check this out.
No, that's what I get, huh? More money to those Asian guys and more real. The lucky, they from the 90s and they know me. I'm trying to shoot you with a big shot, and that's what you told me. I came to Montreal to slave you, to bitch you. Never judge you for smoking hard. Told you I used to sell that. That's crap, your family member. Nowadays, you finally change. You're acting insane. Always talking about money. You ain't rich, dude. Your fancy cars don't impress me. I've been there, done that. Bare facts. Ruckus like Carlito's way. Your niggas is fake. My cousin Liz is a fool. Didn't come when we invited you. Fuck you. Think you're the hardest, but when you're actually the weakest. Family problems, we know how to solve them. Friends problems, we know how to solve them. Family problems, we know how to solve them. Friends problems, we know how to solve them. Yeah, it's ruckus. It's ruckus. It's who? Family problems, we know how to solve them.
I decided to get up because I started to wake up and I guess I moved and breathed and I got bit like 6 times in a row. And they all ran away and keeled over. It's like irritating because they don't seem to learn the lesson.
Didn't come to the family reunion last summer. Fuck you and your mama. I'm over it now. I wear the crown, respected everywhere. If you never there, not even coke. Just try to pull coke, end up getting choked. This is YouTube, uncontrolled. Don't take friends in the same garbage. Spit knowledge, bitch, I'm a problem. 30 years involved them. If you cross that line, that's right. A psycho, a psycho with a good heart. That shows them all that first, and they turn into I don't know what the fuck made my cousin Mervin and my head must have been y'all. Come on, dog, just me and my girl and a gun. Stuck in the slum, connected like the mafia. Yo, don't know nada. Ask mom and dad, they ain't got the answers. Getting more from strangers, fans being holding down. I got the juice now.
Not too slow.
Holding me down. I
Started
got the
COVID
juice now.
2019. Really.
It's ruckus. Family problems, I know how to solve them. Friends problems, I know how to solve them. Family problems, we know how to
How to
solve
borrow
them.
money.
Friends problems, we know how to solve them. Yeah.
Is it Zulu? Wouldn't it be? No, it's Zulu. Am I wrong? I just realized I just noticed that discrepancy.
Oh yeah, one time member in Montreal, this is my last year in 2018, big show for 2018. Fuck out of here, man. All I needed,
That's right.
my friend,
Indigenous people wouldn't need to know.
all I needed was
You
support.
need to learn how to ask for money. I'm very sarcastic.
No love, no love, no love. That's what you get, huh? No love, no love, no love. Family problems, we know how to solve them. Friends problems, we know how to solve them. Family problems, we know how to solve them. Friends problems, we know how to solve them. It's rockers. Salute you, shoot, man. Nobody cares.
Lord, the walk and the with you. I don't think you understand this type of shit.
Big shout out to my fans. I love you, man. We're gonna get some free rockers gear soon, nigga.
Well, where? I don't see no ruggers gear free nowhere. Maybe you put that on the tracks and you hear it 10,000 times. You didn't realize you hear it that many times.
Batman, 20 t-shirt under there.
So I mixed the OG Kush with everything else and fucking passed them. Fuck up.
Righteous Batman 2019. Young weed nigga, fuck that shit, man. You know you come, man. Water on down. No, bro. Hey. YG back on the track, so I pack shit, scratch on the stack. Niggas don't love you, that's a fact. Eat the Mac, no cheese. God bless me, no sneeze. Niggas see me and freeze. Shorty, no shit, these. Got the strap to the slap, if you moving like a stack. Relax, just rack, put them in a box, no jack. Roll one deep, never need a pack. Hey. Niggas know me from north to the south. Never need no one, make my own clothes. Southside, Regent Park, nigga, that's my road. Niggas selling drugs, man, I'm in a drove. They all know what I'm about. Stacking bread, talk shit, catch sleds to the head. Off the shits, no meds, what the fuck. my rent, stay away from the feds on the streets, know that. Deep water, I drink, I smoke, no slip, I swamp me dead. This day I dread, bitch gave me hits.
My friends at Bob Marley Rasta fucking
They said
me.
don't be shit when I was in the ditch. No pussy, I'm rich.
No, I'm not playing stereotypes. You assholes are. Picture Bob Marley. Okay. My buddy, pick him out of a room. Yeah, okay.
I let it flick just like a dick. I'm in this house like old Saint Nick. She want my dick. She know I'm sick. I ain't.
Yeah, sometimes I'm standing with 6 of those guys. It's not the fucking point. Cocksucking pieces. Anyway, I'm pointing at you shit, showing it to him as he's walking towards where I'm standing. And he's like nods his head, whatever. No, look, it's getting worse. No, I believe you. No, it's not what you believe me. No, it's getting worse. No, it's not about getting worse. Just look, it's changing. Even the fucking guy that believes me and understands what's happening, he knows because he sees it education. That's up there for a reason. He's assuming I'm looking at it like a negative. No, that's a horrible thing. Fuck you.
Me, I'm all about my dough. Gotta make sure my boys don't blow. They love
Boring white people's skin is.
My neck is cold, it's 0 below. Big risk gon' shoot, you know I drove. I keep my heat, I ain't talking about a stove. I'm in a trap, on the food, no fresh code. That nigga wants beef, my strap gon' blow. Every time I drop a track, my coat gon' grow. Made sure he told me, don't love my hoe. I should've known that she was right. Because of that, we really tight. I'll push my strap if she won't fight. Good young, right at night, I'll show my might. Never play 40 with the demon, he exciting. I ain't missing, I ain't slipping, never tripping. Coke I'm whipping, check my waist, I'm really dripping. Packs I'm flipping, niggas talking, niggas snitching. Trigger finger really itching for big niggas that want me dead. 9 on me, a 2 in the head. These niggas run to God like Ned. Check my flag, it's really red. Married to the game, not newlywed. Niggas watch my every move, they just wanna see me lose. These niggas lost like blues. My flow is sick, it's got the flu. Hey, I make bread, just call me Dempster's inner move, just like a denture. I am icy, looking pressure. Fuck that bitch, I'll never miss her. She respect me, call me Mister. Since she left, I have been better. Really wish I never met her. Page these niggas like a letter.
Nothing else. I picked a whole bunch of these tracks and reset my brain. I'm all fucked up. Yeah, every single one of them mentions some weird disease. Every single one of them mentions war. Every single one of them mentions guns. Every single one of them. Yeah. And they all come from, almost all come from where I'm from. Price Liz. Area code.
The flow will be in the zone. Let's get it on till the dawn arises. Kissing in the midst of the prey horizon to the moon. Chemistry is what I'm feeling from you. A perfect love story with a rough draft prelude. I wanna make it right and follow right through. Honey, breakfast in bed is something I can do for you. Think you mango, still on the tip of my tongue, and I can get it done. So baby, give me some, and I can give you some, then we can go from there. Keep it PG, but you see what I mean. Let's go. So let me walk and trail and watch the sunset as the moon is so surreal. He rocks by the river and sit on the beach. Quiet times in the city can never be beat.
Quiet
Baby,
times
you
in
can
my
do
city.
your thing.
She must be
And
tripping.
I
This
can
is
do
a
my thing, no, we
picture
can do
of
a thing. Say, baby, you can do your thing. So do your thing, and I can do a thing, no, we can do a thing. It's showtime, your time to shine. Escalating at a pace that I'll never be blind. I get it, got it good, you're doing what you should. And let me tell you what you were misunderstood. I'm doing
Hey,
my
the
thing,
color red
you're
is what
doing
you
yours.
got on third.
Making
I
life
don't
happen
think
and
you
dreaming
understand
of
what I
what you're
just
dreaming.
said.
Every
It's
day
all
I'm
past
dreaming
tense
more
because
cool.
in the
And I
past
think it's very sexy when you show me a full
then you
moon.
don't
Dressing the rest to get the
I'm just
best
gonna
of
stop
me.
clapping.
I can be your best friend if you let me see what you believe. Honestly, the
God's
perfect life
clapping
could
and we'll
be
be
that, honey,
rapping
I
the
support
fucking
you when the
anthems.
world
God
goes
just can't
still.
stop.
Baby, you can do
These
your thing.
fucking hormones and
And
then
I
they
can do a
fucking
thing,
stop
no,
that
we
and
can
God
do a
gets
thing. Say, baby, you
played
can
on
do
the
your thing.
internet
So do your
for
thing, and I can do a thing, no, we can do a thing. Baby, you can do your thing. And I can do a thing, no, we can do a thing. Say, baby, you can do your thing. So do your thing, and I can do a thing, no, we can do a thing.
pay per view because all these niggas want to pay for the chance to touch. See you up close when we up close. Step on you like a goddamn road.
When you come around here, then I'll make you feel right at home. From the couch to the floor, we'll be in the zone.
Thugs like Trump said, and the bottom
Kissing in the midst of the prayer, rising to the moon. Chemistry is what I'm feeling from you. A perfect love story with a rough draft prelude. I wanna make it right and follow right through.
I figured it out. Donald Trump is the Justin Bieber of the United Nations. Yeah, he's got the money to hand around. So all the big African countries are saying, oh yeah, Donald Trump, he's our boy. Yeah, don't touch him, don't touch him. That's our government. Just like Bieber. All the power and all the big fucking girls niggas get paid to protect his fucking stupid ass. I wish you looked the other way. No, that would be unprofessional, wouldn't it? No, you get paid. I get it. It's your money. I know it. Cash cow. He is scrawny motherfucker. You scrawny, Trump is orange. Fuck both of you. I'm the one person that can say it about both of you. Never heard that sound of the 45. And never played it. The sound of the makes you feel alive. Oh my God, I'm doing this right. See them at night, passing what they got. It probably does, dude. I'm gonna tell this shit afterwards. You fucking.
Yo, come along, follow the map, my controller who will hold you like a stiff dip, will work you like a flick trip. I'm crazy back, the shit is getting ill sick, I'm deck out the verbs, nigga, it's the big nicks. Coming fat from the vats of black wax, in fact, I cramp stacks of acts upon the shelves, so fans can help themselves, I prove my record sales. Move along,
Funniest thing in the world, you feel the bite, you look, and it's running away.
I hate to be the one
It
coming.
bit me, and it's running away. That's what the fucking guy. Let me go, let me go, let me go. It's easy, man.
I spend it for Guinness. I'm eating pussies for dinner, but just remember, I ain't no downtown clown. I run the mellow, I sounds the real shit, boy. Straight from the
No seconds, go wait. That's all we say. This is a good dream. I'm record.
On the data rely on soft potatoes with sour creams and chives. No job if I was you, I come through and catch a dose of my strict technique. Straight from Suicide Street. I work a beat like a cop. Trash a pawn shops, frontin' city trends, cause I'm giving niggas sweet knots. Yeah, there ain't no frontin' on the fact. Consider deadly in my habitat. I run the cheap ass sounds.
About one stupid thing of aluminum foil. The 50-pound bag of potatoes. However many containers of sour cream you gotta buy. Yeah, how many fucking potatoes can we make out of that for like $6? Right, I'm a cheap bastard, you don't know.
Know what I'm saying?
You think the army and the government's cheap, you don't know.
If your record ain't out by now, you fucking blew it. I ain't here to welcome faggot imitations. I smuggle brothers so much and pay for mass suffocation. I got shorties in irreversible comas, wild styles, wreck
I'm part of an army that doesn't want to admit it as a government. I live in a country with a government that doesn't want to admit it as an army. This is great. No, I'm way out of my element.
I do my tracks for country black, say fat, doper than
3 or 4 nationalities, but they can't give me passports for any of them because everything's closed. So you don't need a driver's license no more.
Without your bulletproof vest.
Who's gonna pull you over? NCOs patrol.
my best to let you know your access was dropped on the rocket set. Check, stay out the park if you scared of the talk. Understand?
Real records.
Straight from
Don't tag us. They tag them. We told them. Get it? Get it? How many did you kill today? What's the body count? Yeah, it's all fun and games. At least I'm making money. You give me that. You know what they make these tow trucks? Detroit. Didn't know that. Know it now. Oh, they gotta have two totally different sets of wiring for this shit. Our trucks aren't allowed to have any flashing red lights whatsoever. What are all the turn signals and brakes? Right, you can't fucking approximate none of that. I check out everything. The wheel lifts on these things will go down and lift the truck up in the fucking air. It's not straining or trying hard or making a weird sound. It just lifts the fucking wheel that hits the ground and the fucking truck lifts up.
what's wrong with them?
Yeah, completely useless, but yeah, it'll do that. When would you ever need to do that? Never! Exactly, but it's still cool, alright? Yeah, you'd be doing it every day. Hey, look what my truck can do.
As a little kid, I was in the kitchen watching work with the flyest kids. I was never one to work shit. The flyest kids, I couldn't fuck with no work shit. Heavy in gymnastics, cause I had to make up work. Touch niggas living me, fuck niggas kidding me. Break an arm and laugh in your face, and that's the kidding me. Dark clouds around me.
And the province wants to shut down all the tow truck companies. There's cars breaking out everybody's broke ass, nobody's maintaining shit. Oh, pockets just abandoned everywhere. And nobody's allowed to pick them up, take them away. Oh, you guys are Jesus. You know how to run this fucking city.
Day after that, I came back with a pump that held to. Only took one red gun, I caused hell to. And don't
You've never seen abandoned cars laying everywhere?
We HS. Non-apologetic, why the fuck you think I shot you? Not everyone's a blessing, so just watch you stop you. When I pull up on your block, niggas know it's G-Lock. You know I send shots, aim it at the top. When I pull up at the spot, don't bother cop cops. Cause my niggas reckless, and the bullets won't stop. Yo, I'm gonna ride on my enemies. If I go today, I bet my dogs will remember me. Shooting out the semi-piece after this Tennessee. Where to God, you cannot stop my energy. They know me for rolling on them late nights with them youngins trying to get our shit right. Rolling with that sick pipe. Ask SP, you know I got him. It's red lights on a motherfucker when I spot him. And this life you fucking up them commas. Niggas don't want no drama. I'm on the waistline and beating llama. Wait till my mama.
It's semi-full. Pause you in the spot with some holes up in your bowl and have it half removed. Now it's semi-full. And you still half of what you stole.
My niggas see me lost in this bitch.
You just say you're like summer, bro.
You know it's big lock in this bitch, you know? It's big lock, nigga. Cause it's shot, nigga. I don't think it's 5 feet, nigga. You already know. Yo, kid, I got a spot for you, nigga. You know I always do this shit, man. Yeah. I'm out. Come on.
We should officially adopt the Roma. Which is the one that gave Confederacy. Just to piss off the white people. The other white people. They look white, but they're not children.
Down to the dough, my nigga. I'ma have to get it in for the door. I'm about to go and get it in. I do this for my SG, riding GZ low, right behind the scene, get it behind me, sipping on the gin. Them hoes stay down when it's sticky. All my niggas riding with me. I be feeling trippy, blowing in the wind. Shorty wanna talk for the night, for a talk for this life. I feel I never want this shit to end. The dough, my nigga.
Oh, what time does fucking... Yeah, I'm on what change it is.
This is for our haters, yeah, we got the greatest flow. Sipping on that medicine, you know we got that medical. Rain the stars, nigga, this is what
That was smart. You think that was smart? Oh, you were busy? You're not busy anymore, don't worry, bro. Bastard. No creativity whatsoever.
Used to be cold, now cooking in the kitchen, right slash sunny. Listen, lane switching, steady dipping. I'm not here to play. I've been walking through hell. I'm not here to stay. You asking
That
what I'm
ugly
burning?
motherfucker.
Smoking with my hand. Who are they? A bunch of haters with nothing so good to say. I'm OC, MTL, Martha's on your log. We bringing so much smoke, the streets catching all the fog. I ain't pro, this my job. Fire behind the power, I'll devour like the mob. Everyone got a prop. Keep it humble in the meantime. You'll see why. I got mine to stink like I'm
Look at your radio station Metropole. I don't understand. A Metropole. You can't listen to the radio on the subway, by the way.
Thank you, our listeners. Extraordinary, 金华. 今天翻译做了吗? That's an interesting handle. And Walt Lee have been extremely active in our comment sector, and we are happy to have your input. Remember, we're also doing a heart-to-heart segment every Wednesday. That's where we air your voice questions and try to answer them from our perspectives. In order to do this, apparently, we need your voice input.
I should
Just
set alarms
record
for
your
this shit.
question on your phone and send it over to PZFM
It's just 24 repeating alarms, one for every hour. No, it's not one alarm that repeats every hour. That would be simple, wouldn't it?
Okay, now let's dive right into the business of the day. The regulations on garbage sorting that came into effect on July the 1st last year in Shanghai have brought changes and challenges to both residents and authorities. People made them work in the past year with input from the government, residents, volunteers, communities, businesses, researchers, and inventors. What have they achieved in the past year? What can other cities learn from the Shanghai experience? And why garbage sorting is crucial for China? And that's what we are talking about it today.
You should study the facility up on
introduced
on
July the 1st, 2019, last year.
It's in my fucking map book.
Right.
Yes, definitely. So last year on July the 1st, Shanghai's garbage sorting rules and came into force. So with this action, China marked the new era of trash sorting by experimenting with Shanghai, and where you can see residential compounds in the city. They were required to replace all the trash bins in the building hallways with 4 large ones in designated areas. So you can see the colorful truck-like trash bins labeled wet, dry, recyclable, and hazardous, and were only open to residents a few hours a day, watched by volunteers who took turns checking each bag to see if it was thrown into the right bin. But that was the beginning stage. So now I think with people's habits is gradually shaped, and now it seems like you can just ditch the garbage bag whenever you want. It's not like within the specific hours that you
that's
can.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can dispose your garbage. And although there may be still some weakness in implementing this policy, but we can say the massive efforts have been paid off, because we have been seeing the shaping of a good habit of the citizens, and that is underway. And according to media reports, in just 4 months, the Shanghai recycled 4 to 6 times more trash than a year ago. And also we can see the household food waste, or we call it wet trash or wet garbage, and was the eyesore of the whole sorting system for its distinctive smell.
What is wet garbage?
Yeah, very awful, So that was
I know it like wet
8,710 tons per day, so nearly doubled from the same period last year. And also we can see some Shanghai residents, they have developed really good habits to sort trash, and so in this way volunteers, they don't need to stand by the bins to check anytime. And from this we can see the accuracy rate of garbage sorting by residents has reached over 95% in the city. I think this is a very incredible number. So by the growing of the accuracy rate of garbage, the waste sorting, you can see people's awareness of garbage sorting is increasing. I think that's the
best way to implement his policy with everyone is fully aware of what they're doing?
Yeah, 95%, that's pretty significant in a city like Shanghai, especially given the strictness, the level of care that's being placed into garbage sorting. You remember at the very beginning of that policy, there were a lot of internet users making fun of the policy because they're not very clear about what goes into which bin, and they were saying, they were trying to personify the garbage and asking them, what are you? So for them to for Shanghai locals to be able to come up with a 95% accuracy rate, and that's
I think it's funny
something.
because China's always trying
That
to
means
sell
they
us
certainly
as
put a lot of care
bullshit.
and attention into how they sort the garbage.
Yeah, it means it's almost always right, almost always perfect.
Yeah.
And I saw that figure, and I thought,
9.5 times out of 10.
I guess it comes from
9.5.
you have to have eyes on it all the time. You've got to have supervision, public awareness, public education. It seems to be working in Shanghai. Will hopefully catch on elsewhere.
Kevlar gloves.
But I think you hit on it.
Giant
What's the problem? It's the lack of understanding. It's not necessarily that people don't want to do it or don't want to participate. You have that, but it's, wait a minute, if I put this in that bin, what happens? Well, the sad truth is, if you do that, if you put something in the wrong bin, you might as well have thrown it straight into the garbage dump.
Yeah, so the reason why we're separating wet trash from others, from what they call dry trash in Shanghai, is because they are disposed of in different manners. I think most of them will be incinerated, hopefully. If not, they will go into the landfill. So we should certainly try to reduce the size of the waste in the first place. And then kitchen waste and dry waste, they are also sometimes incinerated. And that creates the problem. Because here, because of the lifestyle here in China, when we cook, we create a lot of liquid waste. And these things are not always inflammable. So when you place them in an incinerator and it's not burned completely, and the process could generate some toxic gas like dioxin. So that's very, very unhealthy. And
Your
very,
cooking
very
oil
dangerous.
is too toxic to
And
burn.
so you can't have maybe some incinerators.
Your cooking oil.
Perhaps to European style or European standard, and then burn the same trash that we have here in China. And that's extremely dangerous. Which is why here in China they like to spend some time and distill the wet garbage before they place them together with dry trash and have them incinerated. So the process, there's a reason behind it, and there's a reason that what we all should know about in order to know what we're doing.
Sound like you know everything about it. Tell us what you know, brethren.
And so 95% work units and 90% of 13,000 residential communities and villages across Shanghai, they're actually adhering to the new standards. That's really something. And I think this experiment in Shanghai also gave way to other experiments in other cities. And we are obviously doing this show in Beijing, and we all live in Beijing. And Patrick, you've just moved into the city, and what would be your impression of the policies here in Beijing?
Yeah, I've been here 2.5 years now, and there was a shift over the last month or so at many compounds, and that was there were signs posted, there were clear directions in English as well for locals and foreigners alike that, hey, we're making a change, effective almost immediately. You are going to be responsible for sorting trash from recyclable items in your apartment, and then
So when I say
to
there's
bring them
no
down and
dumping
put them in the right
signs in
bins. So
Chinese,
this is something that
Toronto's the same
we're trying to go like scale nationwide. And again, I mean, I'm recalled to the sort of notion in the U.S. and the U.K. and parts of Europe as well, where if you put something in the wrong bin, or if you put a piece of plastic that's not really classified to be recycled, because not all of it is, right? Not all of the glass or all aluminum. There's different grades of this stuff. If you put it in the wrong bin, you have contaminated some of the other items. And it's that contamination that prevents and precludes the recycling act itself. That stuff has now got to be either taken to the dump, buried, or burned, and then puts off those lethal gases, as we know about. And I'm also reminded of right when I got to China, China had just announced that it was no longer going to import the world's waste. And the U.S. had relied on China for so much of that. The U.K. had been sending enough plastic and aluminum and glass to China to fill 10,000 swimming pools each year.
Wow.
Yeah, so that shows you that obviously they had to
I
find other
rinsed it and put it in the
countries that
bin.
would
I'm a good person.
take it on, but it also started to put more responsibility on these
This ain't got
countries
nothing
to
to do with
do more at
Jesus.
home, and I think that's what nations have been struggling with now.
Right. Huangshan, what about your experience? I understand that in your residential community, they are pretty strict about the sorting policies.
Yeah, I feel like my community has done a pretty good job, but I would say still not as strict as what we have seen in Shanghai because before the regulation took effect, I think it's in May the 1st, right, in Beijing.
Yeah, May the 1st.
Yeah, we had this requirement and to sort out your garbage. Before that, like in my community, in my building, it's like every floor they have two trash bins, and one is for recyclable things and the other one is for others. So now they only preserve the like recyclable bins like on each floor, and then if you wanna dispose other types of waste, you have
That's
to
not
go
gonna work.
downstairs, and there are
It's not
some
gonna work.
big trash
Oh, that'll
bins
make the
and
people
which
with
are the
garbage have
wet
to go
garbage
outside and
and or the
punish them
kitchen
and teach
waste,
them.
and
No,
the other
they'll throw it in
one
the
is
recycling.
I think it's like dry garbage, and the other
Oh,
one
I've
is
only been doing this
others.
for 30
So,
years. How long's
but
China
I
been
think
doing
it's a
it?
very good
60 days. The
initiative,
fuck
and
out of here.
at least now
They didn't
people have the
recycle
awareness that
shit.
I
They
need to sort
dumped
out my
all of it
garbage
in
before
fields
I
and
throw them
burned it
away.
in the open
But at
air.
the same time,
That's what
there's
China
still some
was doing till 2
confusions
months
out
ago.
there. Like I think the implication and the instruction is very ambiguous. So for me, I try to just separate the kitchen waste and also the dry garbage in my kitchen, and then I send them away.
Right.
But at the same time, many people may not clear about the definition of what is dry waste and what is like a kitchen waste, and also what is recyclable waste. So
Right.
for me, I even a little bit confused about plastic bags. So for a very long time, I thought plastic bag is something you can recycle, but actually it's
Yeah.
not. It should be categorized as the dry waste.
Why?
Well, that's very, very specific in that case. Yeah, in my household,
It
I
is
tend to throw the
recyclable. Shit is
plastic into
bullshit.
the
They all
the
say
dry waste
HDPE recyclable,
category, and
LDR,
that's
sorry,
what we do
LDPE
it.
recyclable.
And
Yeah,
I think here we
every
have a
last one of
comparison
them.
between
What
Shanghai
are your
and
reusable
Beijing.
bags
Obviously,
made out of?
when
PVC.
things
Those
started,
can't be
Shanghai
fucking
was very
burned, buried,
strict
recycled,
and pretty
nothing.
sure about what they're trying to do, and therefore they're enlisting the help,
And the
as much
polyethylene
help as
lasts
they can,
longer.
from the society, from the residents as well. So we see a lot of community workers and also as well as volunteers. They're sacrificing their own time to make sure the process goes smoothly. When you're dumping kitchen waste, there are people watching over you to help you know that which goes into which
Just
bin.
voluntarily
And
standing
the
there.
same
all day,
thing,
right?
and also you only get to throw the waste at very specific time of the day. I think the same thing is not exactly
That's not gonna
repeated
work.
here in Beijing. And for one thing, we at the very beginning,
Xi
yes, we
Jinping is
were
showing that he's a
required
bit
to get
retarded.
rid of our kitchen waste at given time of the day. But then gradually, I think that rule was relaxed somewhat, and now we get to get rid of our kitchen waste any time of the day. And also, we are not exactly removing old garbage bins that we relied on for so long. We're still going to the same place. There's no retracting or removing of garbage bins to so that people will go to a concentrated place to do the
Why did
throwing,
the girl
that
just say
sort
the
of thing.
opposite?
So that obviously we are not 100% caught up on the every detail in Shanghai how they do it, but according to our observation, yeah, it seems that we are not as strict as what they do in Shanghai, and I wonder whether this is
Oh, two different
based on
cities?
a
I'm just
difference
so
in our
confused.
lifestyle. I mean, and at least in my residential community, we have guys hovering above the dustbin to try and pick out the recyclables even before we started experimenting with garbage sorting. I'm not sure whether the same kind of thing is practiced in Shanghai before this thing was
You
introduced.
just got weird old
So,
Chinese guys with nothing to
and
do,
also,
that's all.
the other
It
question
goes
is
in
it
there.
fair to require residents to do all the sorting?
It goes in here.
Because from what
I
I
know
observe
exactly what
about
you're saying.
Shanghai, they seems to be placing all the focus on the residents.
Yeah.
When they're dealing with the garbage, and they should use all the care they
Yeah,
can.
everywhere has a
Whereas
garbage
I
guy
think the
like that.
Shanghai,
Everywhere
there's
has
an
one of those
assumption
guys.
that some people is going to do it the second time, the third time.
Yeah.
Like the example about people hovering above the recyclables. I think that obviously is a second round of picking.
Yes.
And then a lot of the garbage sorting companies. So when the garbage are carried away in a truck to a factory floor, I imagine that there they would do a third round, if not a fourth round of sorting. So my question would be: is it fair, I mean, to rely on residents to do the sorting, especially in the U.S.? I mean, so the residents that are not doing the sorting,
Yeah.
is there absolutely no way to make sure that your environment is safe from the lack of sorting?
I think it's absolutely up to each one of us to participate, be educated, and sort our waste from our recyclables at the source, right? But at home, it starts with us, and then of course it goes to a company and probably advances to a third round, as you say. So, but the buck will ultimately stop with us because we are the ones using it. And until we get to a place where, at least in 8 states in the United States are doing this right now, they've set goals for 2020 called zero waste, going zero waste. Until that's more widespread, we need to start thinking about the sustainability philosophy of using less, consuming fewer products, and ultimately just creating less waste.
Hmm. And what about the technology aspect of it? I understand that maybe in the city of Shanghai, people are getting innovative, not just on the individual basis, but also in terms of using services or technologies that they can buy. So there are companies that are focused on developing these solutions.
Yeah, so we can take the Yunfang residential complex in Hongkou district as an example because now in Beijing, I think we are still using the traditional garbage bins with a pedal on the bottom. Then when you like step on it, and the window for you to discard the garbage can be opened for you. But for many communities in Shanghai, they're trying to introduce some smart facilities. For example, the new like garbage bins were tucked in a closed space with windows that automatically open for garbage sorters. And inside this machine, you can see a device sprays a bacteria killing agent like periodically to reduce the awful smell. And there's also an ultraviolet light that can kill mosquitoes. So the light will automatically turn off when sanitation workers they go inside and to dump the garbage into their vehicles. So under each garbage tank, there's a also smart scale. So this can record each garbage deposit. And also at a time and the weight of the garbage sorted are displayed on a screen on the front of the sorting facility. So this in artificial intelligence camera will also installed in this machine, which can monitor the garbage sorting area and captures people who leave their garbage on the ground and informs community cleaning workers of the illegal act. So many people may be curious about the cost. So this kind of smart facilities maybe only cost like 1/4 of the previous one, the traditional one. So this is a very new thing, and also I think we are still at the very initial stage in Beijing because I feel like in terms of like garbage sorting, it covers the four procedures. One, maybe now we're talking about discard. I think each individual they have to do their job because there's something they can other the volunteers they can help you. For example, you just order food delivery and you can't finish your food, then you need to throw the rest of the food and you left in the containers like to the wet garbage bin, and then you have to put the plastic lunchbox into the other bin. Yeah. So this is the only thing you can do. But I'm not saying like it's rely on each individual, but everyone at the end of the day is a joint effort because we also need to care about how the garbage has been collected. So if you say for a very long time in China, some people may have the very good intention to sort out their garbage, but after they seeing the garbage they put into different bins have been collected with the same truck, then you felt like, why I bother to do so? Yeah. So I think there's also other thing we need to improve because now I think in my community, there's a notice and posted on the elevator saying where the garbage collected will be delivered to and who will handle this kind of garbage. But I don't know, will they be handled like disposed differently, or they just like as the traditional practice, you just like dispose them at the same time, and also during the transportation stage, it's also very important because you need to make sure they have been transported properly. Otherwise, they may pollute or contaminate the soil and the water and the road. And also at the last stage is the treatment. So I think the whole process of garbage treatment, is to say, we need a joint effort. It's not individuals can do their part, but that's the initial stage. And if you can do your own part, you will bring more convenience to the other parts of this job. So I think it requires a very comprehensive, contribution by everyone in the society.
Well, as early as 2000s, and we've been talking about garbage sorting, at least in the city of Beijing, maybe a bunch of other cities, and somehow we have not been very successful. Like Huang just described earlier, even if individual households that make the effort of sorting the garbage in their own households, and they do dump the garbage according to the signs on the garbage bins, at the end of the day, when the trucks come and they're all thrown into the same compartment, and so that really frustrates a lot of people. And about what do you think is the reason why we couldn't do that before, and what do you think why we're able to pull this off right now?
Because we have to do that.
Yeah, we got to do it now. I mean, it's never too late. Well, the cynic in me has said, the world is way late on this because we are as a globe. There have been efforts globally, the Paris Accord and so forth with climate change, but we got to start now. We just got to start thinking differently. Whether it should have happened 2 years ago or 2 centuries ago. Is kind of irrelevant because now is the time to start thinking again about using less waste, and then when we use it, where do we put it? And then there's also the emissions from fossil fuels. There's more coal-fired power plants being built in China, built elsewhere, United States. We've got to think about the big picture as well. Does one cancel out the other?
Yeah, and also I think the surging amount of trash, and it already polluted our environment, and it will definitely bring harms to your living environment and also the animals' habitats. And there are lots of things we can do when we create this garbage, and it's our responsibility to deal with it and properly. But also at the same time, if we back to the source, it's how we can save or how we can reduce the amount of garbage we create. I think that will be the best way to protect the environment. But sometimes, especially when the coronavirus just outbreaks, and it makes you feel wow, actually we create more garbage than before. But at the same time, if we can resist the temptation of creating some new garbage, then how can we do our job to reduce its negative impact on the world?
You mentioned the keywords in COVID-19 and coronavirus. I think anything we talk about in the year 2020, we can't do it without mentioning the phantom of COVID-19. Apparently, I wonder whether in Beijing, the fact that we are studying this in the month of May, when we are just recovering from COVID-19, but nonetheless in June we're back in the depth of it again. I wonder whether the fact that we are studying this in the midst of COVID-19 has a part to play with the level of care that we are placing on COVID-19, on sorting garbage. I mean, the fact that it's not as good as we expect it to be.
Boy, that's quite a question, because I don't know if we really know. It's how does COVID-19 play into the I mean, obviously, I think this legislation or this sort of first crack at this was sort of in the works well before COVID-19 struck. But it does put more of the onus on us to be, very careful about what we're using, who we're interacting with, and how we dispose of things.
But if anything, I mean, garbage recycle and garbage sorting is all the more important given given the impact of COVID-19, because we all use face masks, and these things are not supposed to be easily disposed of. I mean, outside of an office building, there's a garbage bin that's set up specifically for face masks. So when we are not doing garbage sorting, then perhaps we are not respecting the laws of medicine and virology. I mean, you have to make sure that whatever you're doing with the face masks are properly disposed of. And the other thing would be the economic prospect of it. From my personal standpoint, I used to look at the business of garbage and as something that's not profitable. I mean, that's it's just garbage.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to make anything out of it unless, of
What?
course, you are short of a few bucks and you want to pick up some recyclable and sell it. But nonetheless, I think over the past year, in the experience in Shanghai, we've seen that maybe it is a profitable business as long as you are able to reduce the cost and as long as there's enough demand for these services and products. You're listening to Roundtable with me, Lai Ming, Huang Shan, and Patrick Flannery. Coming up in the second part of the show, Zhejiang province has come up with a draft regulation on live streaming. We'll find out more about it.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable.
Roundtable. Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day. Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal.
Is that why your whole country's on one time zone?
How are you? What's on your mind? Let's have a heart-to-heart on Roundtable.
What the
Ask
hell?
us anything. We'll help you answer it. Send a voice memo to EZFM Roundtable at
Oh my God, unless
foxmail.com.
she's drunk.
We'll play your question on Roundtable, then talk through it on the live show. Take care.
Oh, you won't.
We can't wait for heart-to-heart with you.
Informed opinion and heated debate. Find out what's got China talking. And join us for your roundtable discussion.
You're listening to Roundtable. I'm Lai Ming, and I've got Huang Shan and Patrick Flannery with me in the studio. Zhejiang province is trying to regulate live streaming. They've laid out some requirements both on the
I speak
platforms and
last
the
night, speak in
individual
the morning.
hosts.
What the fuck?
Will this change the live stream as we know it? Meanwhile, it is the beginning of the work week, and we usually share an inspirational quote, each of us, in our Motivational Monday segment. And so to get us in the right mood for the coming week, stay tuned for that later in the show.
No.
Now, on Roundtable, the move to regulate live streaming. In June, Zhejiang province issued a draft regulating service standards for e-commerce live streaming, marking the first time such rules have
What
been
is
developed in the
e-commerce?
country.
Hold
The Zhejiang rules envision extensive regulation of the industry, covering e-commerce, live streaming platforms, merchants, live streaming hosts, multi-channel networks, and all other business entities involved. Zhejiang also plans to finalize the standards in July. At the same time, the province also releases standards which stipulate the educational level for the live streaming hosts. Let's take a look at the details.
What?
But before we do, some background information about Zhejiang province. We know that's the seat of Alibaba in Hangzhou in Zhejiang province. So Alibaba is the owner of the platform, e-commerce platform Taobao. And I think at the very beginning, a lot of these successful e-commerce or live streaming hosts, they do their live streaming in order to promote products on Taobao.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're seeing a lot of hosts, they've set up studios in the suburb of Hangzhou. And therefore, I think maybe that's the reason why Zhejiang is the first province here in the country to come up with a regulation on this.
Yeah, sometimes
See,
we
make
say
too
that
much
Hangzhou
noise.
City
Oh, it's
of
legal,
Zhejiang
it's legal.
province is the
Yeah, look what happened.
birthplace of China's e-commerce, like a business, because that's the hometown or where is the headquarters of the Alibaba. So, and also we can see so many young people in the city, they have like taken live streaming anchor as their job selection. And I think now we are coming up with the development of
streaming.
society,
Am
so
I an
we
anchor?
have the law on the e-commerce. But
Sink your fucking
it seems
boat.
like there's still a blank page in the e-commerce live streaming in particular, or the regulations on e-commerce hosts. So that's the reason why
It's the
maybe
virus
now
in this,
the
not my
Zhejiang
fault.
E-Business Association, they are
Act up.
trying to introduce a draft regulation for the e-commerce live streaming industry. And they introduced this on like June the 18th, and then they're collecting the public opinions on it. And so in the first such attempt in the country. So the draft regulation clearly states the obligation and responsibility of various parties involved in the live streaming e-commerce services, such as the platform, producer, live streaming anchor, and the multi-channel network organization that cultivates online key opinion leaders. If we take a closer look at the draft, it makes a list of the negative behaviors that all these live streaming anchors they should avoid. For example, it includes like promoting illegal or harmful information banned according to the law, and promoting information of fake or shoddy products, and promoting incorrect information such as false advertisement, unfair competition practices, violation of others' privacy, fake transactions, and illegal advertisement. And in addition, it also pointed out the platform's responsibility in regulating producer and anchor behavior, improving credit evaluation system, and safeguarding consumers' rights and interests. The draft also encouraged live streaming to be used for helping poverty alleviation efforts and charity causes. So if the draft has been cleared, so it will not only ensure the prosperity of the industry, but also will safeguarding users' legal rights and interests.
So we
have been seeing live streamings here in this country for a while now. I remember a few years back, the son of Wanda, Wang Jianling, the son, Wang Sichong, would be the guy who started this live streaming platform for gaming, right?
Yes.
So that was, well, in my case, the first time I came into the idea of online streaming. But over the years, I think, especially in the recent 2 years, live streaming
and
became...
especially this year, and the coronavirus outbreak.
Oh, yeah. So,
tell us the truth.
but in the midst of the prosperity for live streaming, and we've seen some examples, I think Li Jiaqi would be the guy that was latest in the news that during one of these live streams, there was some problems going on with one of the items that he was promoting.
Yeah, I think it was last year, and he was promoting a fried non-stick like fried pan.
Yeah.
Was it? And then actually when he was like demonstrating the pan, and then the egg just stick to the bottom of the pan, so it was a little bit embarrassing.
So it is sticky pan. It's not
Yeah.
non-sticky pan.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, but I think now like he has improved a lot, and now we have seen
But there's people who
two
want a pen. you
major
cannot
live
cook eggs
streaming
on.
anchors in China. One is Li Jiaqi, the other one is Leia, a female figure.
The woman who sold the rocket in the live
Yes.
stream.
Yes, and it's very interesting. But at the same time, I think they cherish your reputation more than ever, because at the end of the day, it's the quality of your products matters, and whether people want to buy the things from you or not. But I do think like the coronavirus has encouraged more people to join the army of the users of live streaming e-commerce platforms, because for example, one of my best friends, he's a very matured and guy, and he's very cautious about every purchase, like decisions. But it seems like so boring during the home quarantine, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. He joined this kind of live streaming e-commerce shopping because he has nothing better to do. So he just watched maybe 3 hours live streaming on those KOL selling the products. So he had bought various products because he enjoyed that thrilling experience. He can compete with thousands or millions of users of this particular service out there in the virtual world. So he has purchased like things like EQ cold necklace. It covers all kinds of products.
All from the same host?
All from Leia. And then he's not, but Leia is not the only person he followed. He also followed Li Jiaqi. So he bought like lipsticks as present for his like female friends, and also some food, snacks, and just covers every aspect of your life. And sometimes you just buy something you don't really need because you enjoy that experience, exciting experience, because they will say that they offer you the best deal ever, and they give you lots of perks. For example, the gifts. So you cannot have a better deal out there on the e-commerce platform. So you prefer to buy that through this particular KOL.
Yeah.
So Patrick, how do you like the idea of buying something on a live stream? I mean, I know as a Westerner, you're pretty familiar with the idea of infomercials.
Yeah.
Although, in my personal opinion, I have
no idea it would be an industry in China
I
either.
suspect a lot
Fuck
of Chinese
you.
people, they're not familiar with the idea of infomercial, although they are hugely popular.
Yes.
I'm not sure who are spending money on these platforms, but my understanding is they are not exactly mainstream.
Yeah.
But as a Westerner, you're certainly familiar with the idea.
Yeah, Ron Popeil was big, if you know that name from the United States. He was big in the 80s. He was sort of the father of the infomercial. And it would be these late night sort of taped studio audience interactions with, you know, a spray on hair, spray your bald spot. You know,
back when the infomercials
pocket
were
fisherman. There were
entertaining.
a number of products that were sort of gimmicky, but like, you know, but wait, there's more, and you got to buy this now in the next few minutes and so forth. And that's kind of what we're talking about today sort of reminds me of. It's sort of the home shopping network of Your is now kind of transitioning to e-commerce, especially throughout Asia, where it seems to really be taking root for live streaming hosts. But
600 items.
You know, a layer of accountability certainly won't hurt. You know, to have more scrutiny will change how the platforms are working with brands and also presenting it to the audience. We don't want to deceive the audience. I mean, stuff you buy online is always going to have some form of gimmickry to it, you know, but it doesn't mean you have a license to take advantage of the shopper. So keeping tabs on, you know, the fake data of likes, false promotions, you know, these sort of procedures, this would just bring a standard to the table. And it's interesting. I know it's out for public comment now, but certainly anybody who's ever been sort of swept up in the excitement and been disappointed will have a say.
So
remind them hot pot things.
I have some questions about
buy 10 million of them. You should
regulation on platforms. It seems to me that they are stressing the platform's responsibility in regulating producer and anchor behavior. I mean, that seems to be, let's say, going against the interests of platforms. And if you ask their opinion, I mean, they will say, "Oh, we're just a platform. We provide the technical solution, and why would we be held responsible for for something that somebody else does on my platform?"
Yeah.
Phone company
what would be your opinion about this? I mean, you talk about it, to me about how maybe TV channels they should exercise some kind of responsibility with the infomercial played on the platforms.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're on the airwaves. So if you're on television in the States, you are, by virtue of being on the air, you are being regulated by the Federal Communications Commission in some way. You also have to be licensed. You have to be vetted to appear on these shows and block out the time, and you build a brand that way. I mean, not anybody can just walk into the studio and begin, selling a product. It just doesn't work that way. The difference is now almost anybody with a camera can sell something.
You just walked in front of a camera and started selling shit.
It's a little bit up to the us really as potential consumers on whatever product is being flashed on screen to sort of use some
corner.
Common sense and there's nothing wrong with buying something online, but even with some of the biggest names that you mentioned earlier have been caught up in some things they probably wish they shouldn't have.
Yeah, so
frying pans that don't stick and so forth.
The size of the live stream e-commerce obviously is pretty huge here in this country.
But the thing is, that live stream anchor probably got more viewers from that because he found out live on the air the pan was garbage like everybody else did.
By the end of March, the number of live stream
he knew he would have done it, would he?
Had risen to 560 million, accounting for 62% of China's netizens. So 3 in 5 internet users here in this country, they watch live stream and they don't see. Maybe they do. Maybe they spend some kind of money on live streaming e-commerce. So we don't have specific figures on how many people are involved in the hosting or in the producing of live streams. But I imagine, given the market's so huge, there's got to be tons of people in this. And the question is, how would the platforms be able to regulate that amount of traffic that's going on their platforms? I mean, is it technically possible?
Yeah, so that's why we say like how we can make sure the live streaming hosts they have enough like professionalism in running this career. And that's the reason why Zhejiang is also going to roll out specifications for the training and evaluation of live e-commerce talents. So based on this regulation, and they will give a level to the professional live streaming hosts. For example, they can apply for the primary, intermediate, and advanced level. And in order to meet the threshold of the application, so you need to have the corresponding working experience. So, for example, starting with 2 years, 4 years, and 8 years, respectively. So, but there's a
how do you get
weakness in
experience
the
something? You got to
system
be licensed
because
to
at
get
the advance
the driver's
of
license
the
scam, really.
e-commerce live streaming business in China, it was just about 4 years, the history. So even for the most influential live streaming hosts like Li Jiaxi and Wei Ya, they may just take this job for less than 4 years, which means they can only apply for the intermediate level for the e-commerce live streaming hosts. So they are not available for the advanced level. So, but and also they have a requirement on the educational background of these hosts. So which means like their educational background should be above the technical secondary schools, institutions. So this has stopped many people from pursuing their dreams as a live streaming host. But I think it's a good trend. You gradually saying we also care about your professional qualities, because it's not something with a camera or with a smartphone you can start your own business, because we have long been seeing that the threshold for being a live streaming host is so low that it seems like everyone can become an KOL overnight. And but at the end, I think it's still the content of your delivery is very important, because these are the people who serving as a presenter of the information. So if they are not qualified to do this job, they may cause some troubles in the societies. For example, they will deliver false information, they will present fake products or the products with inferior qualities, and many people may be fooled by their presentation. And also now we can see that, and according to some statistics figures, 83% of young consumers' decision making on purchase is mainly influenced by the recommendation of those KOLs on different platforms. And also at the same time, recently new occupations have been very popular among the Chinese younger generation. And among all the new occupations, it seems like live streaming host or live streaming anchor is one of the most popular item for them in terms of choosing a new occupation.
All right, I hear you, Huangshan. I think about your point about how it is possible for some live stream hosts to present or misrepresent the products or false products on the during their live streams. But I tend not to equate academic qualification to morality or ethics.
Yeah.
I would like to think that as long as people are able to communicate the information regarding the commodities that they're trying to promote, and as long as they are authentic and they're true with what they present, then they are okay to stay in the business. I mean, no matter what kind of credentials they have, maybe they're just finished high school and they like to make extra bucks so that they can have money to spend for college, and that's okay. But that tends not to be the case according to this regulation, right? So they're setting some kind of threshold for people to, at least for them to get some kind of recognition according to the regulation. So, and also the part about having to spend 8 years in the business in order to qualify as somebody that's an advanced anchor. I mean, that seems to be ridiculous. Because so never mind how many rockets you've sold on live stream, never mind how many hundreds of thousands of lipstick you've sold, and no matter how successful you are, you still get to be a intermediate anchor.
But remember that this regulation is not mandatory. It will just offer.
Oh,
oops.
Yeah, so. It's weird, right?
I'm all confused.
Everything you just said is true,
So
but
we're
it's
at a public
not
opinion on
mandatory.
something that's not going
No,
to
these
be
are
a thing anymore.
two different sets of regulations.
Oh, I
so
see.
the first
Okay.
one we were talking about is after they consolidate like public opinions, they may turn it into a real like regulation.
What are you
Regulation
fucking
to be
talking about,
implemented.
woman?
Yeah,
It's
okay.
mandatory. But this one, the requirement on the professional qualifications of the practitioners, or what we say the live streaming hosts, this regulation is
How
not
can a
mandatory.
Canadian
It
company
means like you can just for the
certify
platforms or the organizations or
Lemon,
the
it'll grow lemon
brands, they
trees.
can
You
use
do
this
not grow lemon trees,
certificate or
you
this
fucking lying cocks. How are you
accreditation as a
certifying it's
reference to
organic?
judge whether they want to use this KOL or not.
Yeah.
They spray
Okay.
gasoline
Again, to
on
borrow
these
the
things.
same logic that
Kill
I
all the
used when we
mosquitoes
talk
or
about garbage sorting,
whatever.
I do
Taste it.
not believe a
No lead.
healthy
That's
society
the high
should
octane
go
right there.
about solving a problem from only one end. I mean, we shouldn't try and make the live streaming
Solving the
market
Chinese cunt,
perfect by stressing
solving
on
a
the
problem
credentials
from both
of
ends.
live
Solving
streaming
a young
hosts.
girl's problem.
I
Two
think
young men
in
solve
the
young girl's
ideal
problem.
world, especially in a world that's based on market economy, I mean, you gotta have all
Can
kinds
we
of
live stream
regulations
porn in China? Will they shoot us?
to help with all kinds of situations. I mean, sure, you bought this fake commodity on this live stream. I mean, there are laws that you can refer to have your rights reasserted. I guess. I mean, never mind who's presenting it. I mean, you shouldn't try and limit the type of people that are doing live stream to try and weed out all the
Stupid, that's the second
irregularities.
bite. You
So
fucking
I'm thinking
you got words, man.
for
You're
this
starving,
proposed regulation on
Run.
who gets to qualify
Run,
to do live
stupid.
posts, I mean
Oh,
that's just
already
ridiculous.
dead.
Well,
Jesus
celebrity
Christ.
status supersedes what's the word?
You wouldn't believe how
the
big this thing is. It's about a year old.
shoot, I lost it. I guess suffice it to say, the consumer
Run,
is pretty
stupid.
agnostic about
Oh,
who's
it
selling
bit me
to
a
them. If they
second time.
recognize
It's
the
dead.
person, the
I
accreditation
felt it 5 minutes
probably
ago.
is number two to them.
Go figure
Yeah,
out where
but
it was.
even in that case, even if these celebrities they sell fake products, and there should be other regulations that should catch them.
Absolutely.
So never mind setting too high a threshold for people to enter the market. I mean that's just not healthy. I
Yeah.
think that's just only my personal opinion. So in case you think strongly about this issue, you can leave your comment on Easy FM app or also on Apple Podcast at Roundtable China, and we welcome your comments. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up, Motivational Monday.
You know, well, Monday.
Wow.
He's a
So
quarter
who's gonna
inch
start
across.
first? I'm already pumped.
You
Oh,
got a thick
I
extra
can
start.
start.
Yeah, there you go.
You
Start us off.
slowly.
Yes, I
move
choose
slowly.
to
Need
quote
few and
from
far between.
Michelle
You fucked up
Obama
this time.
because I think she's a very inspirational figure for me, and she said that we need to do a
All
better
these kids
job
running
of putting
around.
ourselves higher on our own to-do list because self-care
Your
is one of
insides
those things that
explode.
is essential, but in many times we don't take enough time or
Oh,
we
come
feel
on.
like we don't have the time for like taking
Don't make me
better
light a
care of
cigarette, you
ourselves.
cocksucker. If I
But
get to the
taking
end,
care
you're
of
not gonna like
yourself,
it, bro.
your body,
Get
health,
up
and
and fucking
mental
run, you
well-being
pussy.
is also very important to not just feel better,
No fucking
but
playing,
also
man.
to perform better in the long run
Making
and to be able
knickknacks
to help
out there.
others better
I'll fucking
and to
hurt
keep
you for being
going
the
and not
wrong
give up
fucking
until
colors,
you reach
stupid.
your goals and
You look
dreams.
dark. You're not
So
dark.
I feel
Look
like
at
if
You're
you
choking
just
on my
ignore
blood,
or
piece of shit.
neglect yourself, this is a recipe for disaster. So I believe with Michelle Obama's powerful self-care code, it can serve as your helpful reminder that never
Come on,
put yourself
another step. Let's
last.
go.
So there are many reasons
When I
why
get to the end of this, you're gonna be
self-care
very upset,
actually
bro.
helps you become more efficient and make progress faster. So due to the nature of our busy lives, so
he's
taking a
dead.
break to look after yourself
dead.
might sometimes feel like
He's
a luxury,
fucking
but
dead.
we often believe that pushing
Nothing
ourselves to the point of
He had no blood in
exhausted
him
moment
except
like will
mine.
lead to a bigger reward, but it's not always the
Genius.
case. So especially now, many people may having a flexible working schedule, you have more time to stay at your home and communicate with yourself. You need to ask yourself, how can I treat myself better, no matter physically or mentally? Just give yourself a reward, just take a break and then restart your journey.
Bravo. This is from somebody who's recently picked up the habit of going to the gym. So I hope you remember this when you're trying to push yourself too hard.
Yeah.
Yes. The great First Lady Michelle Obama.
Yeah, really appreciate
Expect great memories of a great time in America. Okay, this is from Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, the boxer, the late great Muhammad Ali, who once said, "A man who views the world the same at 50 as he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life."
Mm.
And this sort of piggybacks on what your quote was conveying, I think, in a way. It's and especially shaped by what's going on in the world now. We don't need to get into the weeds on it. We have very few minutes left, but between COVID, between the exposure of the systemic racism and confronting that back home in the States and elsewhere around the world, if you're, toward the age of 50 or 40, like I'm about to hit, I like to think that I don't have the same perspective on the world that I did 20 years ago. And if I did, that would probably scare me. I don't think the same politically or socially that I used to. And I think a lot of that comes with just living, meeting different people who don't look like yourself, who aren't from the same places, traveling and living abroad, having children, so many things.
I told him to get up and run.
You have to live in order to get perspective.
Dropping like popcorn, eh?
Great. Also follow the same logic. I think it's not fair for people in the 40s and 50s to look at people in the 20s in the same light. I mean, obviously they haven't seen the world as much as you have, and so maybe a little tolerance on the younger folks while we're at it. My quote is kind of old. It's from Han Feizi, which is a legalist scholar that advocated the rule of law in ancient China some 2,000 years ago. So he said something that says, 虎豹必不用其爪牙，而与西鼠同威. So tigers and leopards are ferocious animals, obviously, but if they don't make good use of the sharp paws and teeth, they are no more dangerous than house rats. Wow. So I guess the meaning is you have to make use of your best talent. I'm sharing this quote because this week high school graduates are taking the college entrance examination this week. And this year, the exams have been postponed by a month due to the impact of COVID-19. I wish all of them good luck. Wow. And after they're done with the examinations, the better students will face the issue of choosing a major in college. Yeah. And this is where the quote comes in. Before we fill out our applications for a major in college, we have to know what we are best at. There are all kinds of information and tales out there. We can't know and verify them all. So a very typical example is there's a popular saying that says, if you want a career in finance, you have to study the major at either Renmin University or Peking University in Beijing. Otherwise, you probably won't amount to anything. Even if you study finance in a different school, you could end up wasting your time and not getting a job. But I think this saying, if there's any truth in it, applies only to the best talent. There are millions of students going to the college every year. They can't all go to Renmin University or Peking University, but they still need to choose a path or a major that will hopefully lead to a good career. So if they've shown interest and talent in finance, then they should definitely pursue it in a school that they can qualify. And remember, it's not about winning the competition with the top talent. It's about making the best use of your own strength to sharpen your teeth and your paws. Another example would be a major in a foreign language. Now, this is an area of study that I went into that is quickly falling out of favor with the students and the job market these years. Today, the best and brightest students are not choosing the language majors in college, not on the same scale as the students 20 years ago. But if you are someone who has shown talent and interest in a foreign language over other subjects, I think it is still okay to pick up a language major. I mean, given the circumstances, you're probably going to have a difficult time trying to emerge victorious or successful. But nonetheless, that's the area that you are most likely to excel and also win the competition. And before we go, I mean, it's important to know that both finance and foreign language are examples here. So I'm by no means trying to convince you guys to go into these subjects.
Just a reference.
At the end of the day, you still have to make up your own mind about what you're best at and also what you want to study. So remember, it is
45
your own
minutes, you're
choice.
gonna
You have
turn
to know
on.
yourself. You have to know what you're best at, and then make the decision come maybe the end of July or when you have the results coming. So that's my motivational quote.
Steve at the 680 Traffic Center. Good morning, Sam.
Well, good morning, Paul and Catherine. Right now, a pretty easy drive, at least to start the morning. East 401 slows down a little bit through Mavis. Some good news, though, for those who were listening to Alina about the South 400 tire. Debris cleared south of Highway 89, although it's still on the shoulder, so a heavy tow still might have to come through this area. But for now, that hasn't happened, and things are still moving pretty well.
Now
Valley's Parkway into downtown, also a pretty good drive right now. They're moving while traveling east. QEW before that also in pretty solid shape. And not much happening on city streets this morning. 407 ETR is helping communities respond to the needs of isolated seniors, food banks, and those seeking mental health and employment assistance. Visit 407etr.com.
Mental health and employment assistance. We want you well enough to get back to work.
Jill Taylor.
Unproductive bastard.
Stretch continues this weekend. Will increase the humidity. Right now it feels close to 30. It's 21 degrees, mainly clear at Pearson, 22 at 680 News. The guaranteed high today, 31. 680 News time, 6:02.
The warnings are over. Starting today, the city's speed enforcement cameras will start spitting out tickets with fines.
680's Carl Hansky joins us live from Etobicoke with the story and reaction. Carl.
That's right, Catherine. After 3 months of issuing warnings only, the 50 photo radar cameras installed in school zones across the city are today starting to issue tickets. I'm en route to one of the cameras located on Redforth and Radford area.
What's going to happen if you stand next to the camera?
Now, the ticket is just mailed to the owner of the vehicle.
Yeah, we
There
know.
are no demerit points involved in this, just the fine. But the fine
Yeah, but you
itself
get insurance.
is determined by speed. So the faster you're going through the school zone, the more money you'll have to hand over. In some cases, hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
680 News Time 6:03. The days of streaming the province's grade 9 students into applied or academic levels are reportedly over, along with suspensions in elementary grades. 680's Kevin
Good, because that applied academic shit doesn't mean anything in the real world, eh?
Education Minister
Nothing.
Stephen
Means
Lecce calls
nothing.
the
I forgot
process
about
of grade 9 streaming a systemic, racist, and discriminatory practice that has to end.
Basically.
Ontario is the only place in Canada where some high school students are directed toward college and university or higher education, while others are put on the applied track toward hands-on careers. The research shows that Black, Indigenous, and low-income students are disproportionately put on the applied track, where they're much more likely to drop out of high school. Lecce says tells the Toronto Star
They don't
that
teach
it's
us
time to
anything.
end the practice
Literally don't
and give
teach us
racialized students a fair chance at success.
Oh, they
The
teach you how to
Toronto
work
District
with your
School Board
hands to
is
get a
already in the
job.
process
No,
of
they don't.
phasing out
Which, by the way,
streaming,
those two things are connected to each
47%
other.
of Black students take the applied course stream, compared to just 20% for non-Black teens. Star also reports the province wants to toughen up sanctions against teachers who make racist comments or take discriminatory actions. And the Ministry of Education also wants to ban suspensions for students in elementary school, a practice that also affects Black students disproportionately. At Queen's Park, Kevin Meisner, 680 News.
You had to think for a second what to call
Today
us.
is expected to be the
It also
fifth day
affects
in a row of temperatures
Black
up or
students
above 30 degrees
disproportionately.
in Toronto. We've had
Yeah,
4
when they
straight
hesitate
days
before a
above
word, they're
115
saying,
with
I don't
humid
believe this
values
word.
making it feel
That's how white
closer to
people get
40.
subtle hits
Our
when they talk to
meteorologist
each
Jill
other.
Taylor says there isn't much relief in sight. Best chance of some wet weather likely for the weekend with some scattered showers and thunderstorms, at least the highest chance that we've had since about June the 27th. Today's guaranteed high is 31 degrees. The city's 15 cooling centers remain open.
680 News Time 6:05. Welcome to week 17 of pandemic life. The week masks become mandatory in all indoor public spaces in the city. 680's Jamie Pulper joins us live with the latest. Jamie.
Yeah, Paul, this has been an ever-evolving situation over the last 4 months, with some good news from the province, at least, reporting its lowest number of COVID-19 cases to date at 138, and 30 out of 34 public health units in Ontario reporting 5 or fewer cases. But Toronto is still
give me this 5
cracking
or
down.
fewer. There's
That
no
means starting
magical
tomorrow,
number.
masks are mandatory in all indoor public spaces, and it is a contentious issue. That viral video posted at 680news.com. A woman named Letitia Montana posting that on Twitter Apparently going to St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto with a broken finger recently, then refusing to wear a mask. There's lots of backlash online, many backing the hospital staff, some saying that wearing a mask isn't a political statement, it's an IQ test. University of Toronto epidemiologist Colin Pronounced weighs in on City News.
I'm acute chest syndrome, which by the way is because I'm black. Oh, we don't know what you are. You know what sickle cell is? We know exactly what that is. I'm from South Africa. Oh, we know exactly what this is. You know what race I am. Oh, we don't know what that is.
That City of Toronto bylaw comes into effect.
South Africa's a region.
Masks mandatory in all indoor public spaces. There will be some exceptions for people who suffer health issues and not mandatory for children under the age of 2. Reporting live, Jamie Pulfer, 680 News.
680 News Time 6:06. The Blue Jays finally begin workouts today at Rogers Center after arriving here in the 6 last evening. Our Simon Bennett has the latest as the boys are summer
people walked up to me and started screaming at
The
me
Blue Jays finally
because I helped some old cripple woman push her wheelchair to the fucking pop.
they can leave. As part of the quarantine agreed to by all levels of government, the Jays cannot leave the footprint of the Rogers Center, staying at the attached hotel and working out on the field itself. They can finally get their reps in starting today. With a 60-game truncated season starting soon, it's not known if they will actually be able to play home games in Toronto just yet. Laura Armstrong covers the Jays for the Toronto Star.
They have an idea probably of where they're going to be playing. It's going to be Toronto or it's going to be Florida, 2 places that they're very familiar with. They're going to be in a bubble here or they're going to be in a bubble there.
The season is expected to start around July 23rd and 24th. Expect news on that, with MLB reportedly set to unveil the schedule later today. I'm Simon Bennett.
680 News Time 6:08. He had already lost his leg to COVID-19. Now fans are mourning the loss of one of Broadway's brightest stars.
His leg. Get the fuck out of
in
here.
Hamilton, had no pre-existing conditions, and was just 41 years old.
The Tony Award nominated Canadian.
Never won the
Son
Grammy.
nom, il
I
est
won't win
Andy.
the Tony.
La brute, mais avec dans le passante. Et donc, il a signé la musique de plusieurs films comme Pour une poignée de dollars, Le Bon, la Brute et Le Truand. Il était
He won
une
a
fois dans
Tony.
le-
He's one of
Alors,
those
le
ones. He's
réalisateur
one of the
savait
people
même
white
lui
people
qu'il
approve
était l'un
of.
de ses meilleurs
Good. He's
scénaristes.
dead. He's one of
Et
your
durant
heroes
sa
dead.
carrière, il a composé près de
Should we
500
pardon
musiques
him
de
now?
films. Il a
Suppose
travaillé avec
we
des
didn't ask for a
réalisateurs
pardon. We
comme
didn't ask for a
Almodovar
pardon
ou
either.
Tarantino. Et d'ailleurs, c'est en 2016 qu'il a remporté l'Oscar de
Warriors
la
is a
meilleure
prison
musique de
game.
film
Stood
pour
up
les
by Louis
Salvador.
Real,
On les écoute un
motherfucker.
extrait.
They go way back. You ain't taking credit for nothing. Oh, you're a posse. Yeah, you're a posse. You hunt down niggers and Indians, and you blame Indian at the
Et il
same
y a
time.
quelques
You stupid
années,
as
il a
fuck.
commencé
Oh,
une
you
tournée mondiale
syndicate.
pour
You
ses
know the word
60 ans
means
de carrière.
copy.
D'ailleurs, il avait reçu
Syndicate,
aussi
copy.
un Oscar
Copy
d'honneur
is
en
admitted.
2007
It's funny,
pour
because that's a
l'ensemble
registered
de
trademark.
son œuvre.
Ça, c'est pour Ennio Morricone. Et puis, il y a un autre artiste, Diana, qui nous a quittés. C'est l'acteur canadien Nick Cordero.
Et oui, il est décédé des suites des complications de la COVID-19 à l'âge de 41
Did I
ans
not just-
dans un hôpital de Los Angeles. C'est un acteur qui a grandi à Hamilton, en Ontario, et
he
qui
died in
était
LA. I'm
célèbre
just so
pour
sorry for
ses
you.
rôles dans les productions de Broadway.
Merci, Diana.
Au revoir.
On va parler de sport maintenant. La Ligue nationale de hockey et l'Association des joueurs ont conclu hier soir une entente de principe pour la reprise de la session, ou plutôt de la saison, suspendue depuis le 12 mars en raison de la pandémie. Mais les deux parties négocient toujours la prolongation de la convention collective. Si l'entente est approuvée, les équipes devraient couvrir des camps d'entraînement lundi prochain et les matchs pourraient reprendre vers la fin du mois en 2 bulles avec des séries éliminatoires élargies à 24 équipes. Voilà, c'était Radio Journal.
Put the mask
C'est
on
Bruno
now.
Larose au nom de
And
toute
if you can't
l'équipe.
do it on your own,
Bonne
you
journée.
shouldn't have one on because no one else can touch yours. You fucking it's an IQ test whether you put one on or not, really? You heard the name Letizia. It's not black, it's fucking Greek. They're fucking evil people. You don't even know you're being racist again.
À l'émission ce matin, on n'a peut-être pas pu voir la comédie musicale Hamilton sur les planches comme prévu à Toronto, mais on peut la voir sur nos écrans à la maison. Les détails à 6h35. On va aussi entendre un autre qu'on n'a pas vu sur les planches du terrain de basket depuis un moment, Serge Ibaka des Raptors. Et l'histoire magnifique d'un jeune de 19 ans qui traverse le Canada à vélo et qui est de passage en Ontario. Ici Marjorie Atriel de retour à Y'a pas deux matins pareils, contente d'être avec vous dans la chaleur ce matin avec Elvis Noemsi, Annie Poulain, bonjour. Bonjour Marjorie. Je dis dans la chaleur parce que ça se poursuit. Hein? Je ne sais pas si vous avez souffert un peu de la chaleur comme moi dans les derniers jours. Je regardais la météo avant de commencer l'émission. On n'a pas eu de pluie à Toronto depuis le 27 juin, imaginez. Ça va faire 10 jours et ça se poursuit, ce temps chaud. Peut-être qu'on aura de la pluie mercredi, mais beaucoup d'humidité quand même dans l'air, beaucoup de temps chaud. Toujours cette alerte de chaleur d'ailleurs qui est en vigueur à Toronto. Il fait 21, température ressentie déjà 26 ce matin. Et aujourd'hui, avec cet avertissement de chaleur, on prévoit à Toronto des températures encore très élevées avec un humidex autour de 36. Alors oui, ce serait assez chaud encore, très estival. D'ailleurs, la ville de Toronto qui a aussi mis en place son alerte à la chaleur. On en parlera un petit peu plus tard à l'émission. J'espère que vous pourrez quand même profiter malgré tout de ce beau temps. Profiter peut-être du bord des plans d'eau comme le lac. C'est toujours un petit peu plus frais près du lac avec la petite brise. Aujourd'hui, puisqu'il fera très, très beau. Dans l'actualité, Annie, il y a des tribunaux de l'Ontario qui reprennent certaines procédures en personne à partir d'aujourd'hui. Ça reprend dans une quarantaine de palais de justice.
Oui, Marjorie, ça reprend avec des mesures de santé publique, notamment le port du masque et des parois de plexiglas qui ont été installées un peu partout. Pour l'avocate en droit criminel Marie-Josée Lafleur, la reprise est essentielle pour commencer à rattraper les retards et la pression qui est lourde, surtout pour ceux qui attendent leur procès en prison. On l'écoute.
J'ai un individu qui est présentement détenu depuis plusieurs mois et ça va faire depuis le mois de, je dirais, fin mars que je tente de fixer une date de procès et on ne me donne aucune date encore. Donc, mon client détenu est reporté à chaque 2 semaines et sans aucune indication quand il va pouvoir avoir son procès.
Et par ailleurs, Marjorie, il y a des syndicats et des associations de professionnels qui soulèvent plusieurs inquiétudes du côté de la santé publique. Il y a l'Association des procureurs de la Couronne de l'Ontario qui veut suspendre la reprise et qui a déposé une demande d'injonction, une demande qui n'a pas encore été entendue. Elle demande une évaluation approfondie des bâtiments et de la formation pour le personnel. La province a d'ailleurs décidé de retarder la réouverture qui était prévue dans 2 palais de justice à Toronto et à Guadeloupe. Des questions de sécurité.
Et ça, ce sera l'un des sujets du jour aujourd'hui, Annie, à Toronto, j'en suis sûre. En tout cas, ça va faire parler, jaser beaucoup les gens. Il y a une cinquantaine de photoradars qui vont commencer à émettre des amendes pour les excès de vitesse à compter d'aujourd'hui. Des radars qui avaient déjà été installés, mais pour l'instant, on recevait des avertissements. Mais là, vraiment, c'est pour vrai ce matin. Si les gens passent devant ces radars-là, ils pourraient recevoir une contravention par la poste.
Oui, c'est ça. Ce sont des machines qui enregistrent les plaques d'immatriculation et qui envoient des amendes aux contrevenants. Il n'y a aucun point d'inaptitude qui sera ajouté au dossier du conducteur dans le cadre du programme, mais quand même, comme vous le disiez, jusqu'ici, c'était des avertissements. Juste pour les mois de février et mars, la Ville de Toronto dit avoir envoyé plus de 25 000 lettres d'avertissement aux contrevenants. Ce sont des photoradars qui ont été placés un peu partout dans la Ville de Toronto dans le cadre du programme Vision Zéro qui tente de réduire considérablement, voire d'éliminer les morts et les blessures graves dans les rues de la ville.
Apparemment, c'est des radars qui ont déjà été installés ailleurs, entre autres dans la région de Durham, York, Peel, justement dans les zones scolaires, surtout les zones où il y a beaucoup d'enfants et où on devrait rouler beaucoup moins vite autour de 30. Ça a déjà été installé, là c'est installé ici. J'ai hâte de voir si ça va fonctionner, si les gens vont essayer de constamment peut-être se sortir du pétrin en essayant de contester ces contraventions-là. C'est à voir. Ça va donc commencer à partir de ce matin. Merci beaucoup, Annie. On se retrouve à 6h30. Oui, à plus tard. Tout de suite. Dans l'actualité culturelle, ce matin, Elvis, plusieurs nouvelles. Plusieurs tristes nouvelles. On va en reparler un peu plus tard. On en entendait parler au bulletin d'information, entre autres, avec le décès d'un compositeur italien très connu, célèbre pour la musique de film. Il y a aussi un Ontarien, bien sûr, qui est décédé de la COVID. Cette vedette des musicals dont on va aussi reparler, Nick Cordero. Mais ce matin, il y a aussi ce qui se passe du côté de l'Europe, parce qu'il y a un retour à la normale de plus en plus en Europe, à certains endroits, et c'est le le cas au Louvre, le Louvre qui ouvre ses portes pour la première fois en quoi, 3-4 mois aujourd'hui?
Mais en fait, ça fait 3 mois, Marjorie, que le musée était fermé et on imagine le manque à gagner que cela a pu orchestrer. En fait, c'est 60 millions de dollars qui ont été perdus avec cette fermeture-là, donc ce qui est considérable. Cela dit, la réouverture aujourd'hui ne signifie pas un retour intégral à la normale. Le musée est ouvert dès aujourd'hui, mais il faudra bien sûr respecter les consignes sanitaires. On parle du respect du port du masque, il faut suivre des flèches sur le sol sans pouvoir revenir sur ses pas. Donc à partir du moment où on entre dans le musée, on fait un tour qui nous amènera jusqu'à la sortie. On ne pourra pas revenir sur ses pas. Donc dans l'immédiat, c'est quand même plus de 70% des collections qui sont accessibles durant ce qu'on considère la première phase de l'ouverture. Les personnes qui visiteront auront la possibilité dès aujourd'hui, par exemple, de voir la Joconde ou encore la Vénus de Milo, qui font partie des pièces les plus en demande lorsqu'on visite le Louvre. Ce ne sera pas un retour à la normale immédiat, je le disais, puisque c'est quand même 75% du public qui visite le Louvre, qui est composé d'étrangers, bien sûr des gens qui, pour l'essentiel, ne sont pas encore autorisés à intégrer l'espace Schengen, parce que bien sûr, on peut déjà circuler à l'intérieur de l'Union européenne, mais c'est encore difficile pour des personnes qui viendraient de l'extérieur, même si bien sûr l'Union européenne a émis une liste de pays qui peuvent visiter le territoire de l'Union européenne.
Et là, c'est comme ça pour l'instant. Il faudra voir si les chiffres en France augmentent et si on décide de retourner en arrière. Mais là, pour l'instant, donc, le Louvre qui ouvre ses portes quand même, c'est quelque chose, ce que vous décrivez, ça ressemble beaucoup à l'expérience qu'on a quand on va à l'épicerie en ce moment. Vous savez, avec les lignes au sol, puis on doit suivre un trajet pour revenir en arrière. Ben, ça ressemble un peu à ça pour aller visiter le Louvre. Et je le disais, Elvis, de tristes nouvelles ce matin, notamment l'annonce du décès du compositeur italien Ennio Morricone.
Oui, il est décédé, Marjorie, à l'âge de 91 ans à Rome, en Italie. Il était notamment connu pour son travail dans des westerns spaghetti, est crédité pour avoir créé plus de 500 musiques de films, dont l'une des plus célèbres restera celle du film Le Bon, la Brute et le Truand.
The death toll is much higher. And one of the things that government authorities are continuously citing is that India's death rate, its mortality rate because of coronavirus, is a lot lower than other countries with a similar number of cases. And that's where the question mark arises. Brazil's health ministry recording 26,000 new coronavirus cases, bringing the country's total to just over 1.6 million, second highest in the world.
The boundary has something to do with something. What does it? The virus is where your borders are. It's nothing to do with where all the vectors are.
Today, Rio de Janeiro opened its bars and restaurants over the weekend. Australian authorities preparing to close the border between the country's two largest states, New South Wales and Victoria, as the country's second largest city, Melbourne, recorded 2 deaths and its highest ever daily
for the right to beg. They're still cutting limbs off so kids will make more money begging. They're still teaching 3-year-old girls how to have sex. You think India is somehow advanced and naturally killed this virus?
New cases were recorded overnight.
There's dead bodies everywhere. Nobody's talking about it.
6:19.
You can't smell it.
Independence Day weekend taking on a dark new meaning this year with crowds flocking to beaches as American COVID case numbers continue to surge.
Garbage in the fucking river.
That makes a lot of sense. From 2 big hotspots, Florida and Texas.
While Florida battles a spike in coronavirus cases that shows no sign of letting up, the beaches were still busy. As long as you're social distancing and make sure that you're not within where the crowds are, so I think we're fine. New cases in Florida exceeded 10,000 Sunday for the 3rd time over the past week, after the Sunshine State reported a record caseload of more than 11,000 the previous day. Outbreaks around the world have been blamed on resuming business as usual before the virus was under control. Austin's mayor telling CNN the hospitals are just days away from not being able to keep up with the surge after the state hit another record for daily new cases this weekend. I'm Karen Seolin.
60 News Time 6:20. Prosecutors in New York have asked a judge to schedule a Friday court appearance for Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. The British socialite was arrested last Thursday and is being held without bail after agreeing to be moved to New York. Maxwell's been charged with conspiring to entice girls as young as 14 to engage in sexual and illegal acts with Epstein from 1994 to 1997. 66-year-old Epstein died.
So I was right about the age thing is about some technicality of fucking age of consent.
6:30 News Time, 6:21.
Sexual and illegal.
Weather together on the ones brought to you by your local Ontario Subaru dealers. Here's Zach Bodenstein.
Well, we're getting a little busier out there, but eastbound 401 still in decent shape. Finding a delay, though, from Mississauga Road over to Mavis. There's a stalled vehicle, but it's on the shoulder right now on the eastbound 401 approaching Weston in the collectors. Again, that truck still hasn't moved, but there's no real delay through the collectors. Getting a bit busier through the express as you make your way towards the 400 on the east 401. Really not seeing much west on the 401. Really good drive at the moment. No delay at this point. Southbound 400, south 404 DVP, both in solid shape as well. As you make your way eastbound on the QBW, not much doing, but East Gardner finding a delay through South Kingsway. Other than this, moving well up to the DVP, and again, Don Valley moving well south. It's also looking good as you travel north. The westbound Gardner in good shape. West QBW left lane was blocked at Winston Churchill for some construction, and there's no delay because of the road work happening in that area right now. Find all new ways to shop for a Subaru at your local dealers. Start online and connect for award-winning service. All new value and rates from as low as 0.5%. With an extended look at the forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Well, the heat warning continues, and it will likely be in place all week. We'll increase the humidity, though, this week. The guaranteed high today, 31, will feel like 36. It'll feel more like the low 40s for the rest of the week. We'll have sun and cloud today. For tonight's mainly clear, 21, and tomorrow 32, feeling like 40. More of the same for Wednesday and Thursday. Best chance of some wet weather for Friday night and scattered for the weekend. Right now, feels like 27, 28 with the humidity. It's 22 degrees, sun and cloud at Pearson and at 680 News. Our guaranteed high today, 31. And
like 27, 28
did not miss
with the humidity, it's 22 degrees. You got no sense of where to pause.
$4,200.
Coming up at 6:30, ticket time. No more warnings. Speeders caught on photo radar cameras as of today.
We'll have their cars taken away by their mothers.
Pandemic life, and the Blue Jays arrived last evening at their new preseason training bubble. Rogers Center.
680 News Time, 6:23.
Rona asks renovators how good they're feeling about getting outside this summer. Are you kidding? Look at my smile. This is radio. Oh, sorry. Look at my smile. No, they can't see you. Hey, dude, you're killing the vibe. With parcel and truck delivery, curbside pickup, and DIY project everything you need for your projects.
Oh, shit.
This portion of 60 Minutes brought to you by Northern Financial Group.
Get the fuck I'm smoking in these bitches, they so extra shit. Suck a dick, you fucking bitch. I gotta hit the block and six. I got a chop, he need a fix. Phony ain't call letters. Sliding through the package quick. Pussy niggas talking shit. I ain't telling lies, ho. F1, yeah, that's my click. No, he up next, bitch. Haters on that trailer shit. I never get ready. This how we taking up the bitch. This is for my haters up. Yeah, we got the greatest flow. Sipping on that medicine, you know we got that medical. Ready to go, nigga with some hooligans. Ready to go, nigga with some hooligans. I just want my haters know. Yeah, we got that greatest flow. Sipping on that medicine, you know that shit is medical. Ready to black, y'all with some hooligans. Ready to black, y'all with some hooligans.
I've got hairs that grow through a skull.
They told me them Wicks and niggas is better than me. They told me them G-Way niggas is better than me. They told me them Reacher niggas is better than me. Got the silver in me, got them see my enemies a month away. I'm up the niche, I had a child today. Product of environments and alleyways. Like why these rappers wanna blame me? They suck more dick than Sam G.
Ew, what did I just? Ew, that sounded like I met some house. Oh, I didn't know. I don't know what their beef is anyway.
My drama make the notes in my videos. Won't get 100,000s of films on the south side. I recognize the G-Way, Region Park. And Southside J, that's where the demons walk.
Inadvertent, I didn't plan on this song.
Tears in your eyes when you see your mom. Let the boys not free, but open freedom come. Go against me, some Mac versus BB gun. Fuck boys, they didn't think we gon' throw some shots. Fuck niggas. Same vodka, bitch. This is a Mac 10 beef. What's wrong with them? Or that Mexico youth with Down syndrome. They're like 5 foot nothing. Some boy, they better watch out. Get slapped down, survive a shot, then my niggas swinging back round, then you go, and then I'm at go ring, and it's fully automatic. Them niggas just so melodramatic, go ring, and it's fully automatic. Them niggas just so melodramatic.
I was doing pretty good, so you forget I was doing this.
Niggas suspicious, trust that they must be hoes. Making them kick
the whole round table, in and out.
I rock your roads. Try to take this for the
start recycling.
50,000 views gon' gas them up like
I think I got the right idea.
Give a fuck about responses, push that brand and pass your tonsils. They tell me put them ducks away. Okay, cause he ain't even free yet. My soldiers with the toasters, that's something they didn't free yet. Fuck your punchlines, I bust nines and nut shot by accident. I'm natural, no practicing. Baptized in blood, bring the Catholics in. This is light work, so why you panicking? Lyrical homicide for hoodlums. Fuck your niggas over there, your hood comes. Just remember which club bro your hood's from. These niggas looking like pom pom. Some boy, they better watch out. Get slapped down, survive a shot, then my niggas swinging back round, then you go, and then I'm at go ring, and it's fully automatic. Them niggas just so melodramatic, go ring, and it's fully automatic. Them niggas just so melodramatic.
If I shut the window,
watch out. Get slapped down.
Everything off the fucking road, so the sun will
then you go, and then I'm at go ring, and then I'm at go ring. Them niggas just so melodramatic.
Air coming through the hallway should be coming from another 150 feet up. Like 50 meters up. Slightly less particulates, slightly cooler. That's right, a whole bunch of better things.
Vito Rizzuto was the head of the Montreal Mafia. He was a man with many enemies, but Rizzuto died of natural causes.
The Mafia, a secret order dedicated to Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours.
You violate what you know about this life, and you're gonna burn in hell like the script is burning in your hands.
Ruckus. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Cause I'm getting on now. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Had more respect for the crack, not rappers. They forget, cause they blast you with a Mac, and that's that. It's fucked up how niggas want my head over fame. It's a shame, cause I love their minds. Insane like G, but not quite like me. One of a kind, on my grind. Fuck yeah, I'm a hood hopper. I'm well known all over. My niggas is connected with AJ, every day's payday. Murder will kill you if you kill me and burn your kids. Paranoid, keep a 9 mil, make your blood spill. Lay there in a pool full of blood, you're a fraud. Your life's on pause. That mine is next. Don't ain't heard none yet. Life dedication, Malcolm X invasion. Black Zion and Honey's a diva. Plus striking, the only one there when I touch my first million. Fuck your reasons, you don't listen. Be strong, my career's in God's hand, not mine. Indefinitely not yours. We're hard to the core, dear Lord. We've been here before. Mission impossible, survive death more than 20 times. And talk crimes, you're worth a dime. B.I.G. ready to die. Thug like Pop 50 before he got shot. Waiting for them shots. Ain't afraid of nothing. Listen, little bitch, come get it. I can't be a conscious rapper. All my life been a gangster, mobster, fucking monster. Fuck you haters. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now.
I just wonder, back in the day, if you were like computer nerds,
you can't
when he was buying weed up the other, was an ounce like 28.8 grams just to like stick it to the man a little bit?
They used to guns. 10 guns before. Bobby murdered 20 guns.
Did you buy two or did you just call it D90 or whatever?
Shit hurt bitch ass niggas. Stop throwing fucking bullshit online. Come in real life.
Real life.
Really. It's gonna less. Try to dumb it down for these niggas and be conscious. But this is real life shit. Yep. Ruckus.
Cashing it out for scrap metal.
RapTillDeathRecords.com.
Title tellers.
Malcolm X video. Will be on Much Music. Will be on Vivo. Will be everywhere in the fucking world, nigga. Either you like it or not.
Signs. All the letters was hand signed. Okay, this is my thing, man. I couldn't tell you. I'll forget tomorrow lunch. Low Rise Records, my thing. My thing. Regardless,
you hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do our thing, so let's do a thing. Baby girl, yeah, let's take the streets. Suckers wanna hate me, probably cause they see me sitting shoddy with they lady.
See, that's how I know this is all.
Know better. Everybody know that I'm.
Seriously?
Low rise.
Much effort into this shit, eh?
Slow rise.
I'm going to point out that I think somebody's in the corner. I already am not putting effort into it. Already not putting effort into it.
Low rise records, baby. SDLOWRYZE. Make your MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do. You stick, stand up, and you SDLOWRYZE.
That don't make sense for the mouse to take that much over it. I went music for the last year, and it did that. So what did they do to my fucking mouse? Did they get an automatic update or some shit?
minded before, so fuck them all. I stay ahead of my game, ahead of my time. I feel the drive in my brain, you feel the force of my lines. This gang make it clean, but the air we go. Cause every part fucking right comes from my soul. I try my hardest just to lace these tracks with such grace. Often question myself just to see if it's a waste. Test myself sometimes past the limits of control, but do it all at any cost just to go and hold me. I gotta do it, and I'm heavily pursuing the stream. But every fucking time I do it, it seems it gleams past the fucking point of observation. Now I'm steadily taking out you faggots that behave. SCLOWRYZE. Make your MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feel in the mood. It's the LOWRYZE. Make your MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feel in the mood.
Off the top of the
Skills, but I prove them all wrong. Another 6 script for another 6 song. Now I'm rolling with the illest crew in all of Saskatoon. Making hits, making tracks, gonna be famous soon. The tightest tricks you heard coming from low rise. Gotta please the people's taste, gotta feed their cries. E-Block, Saskatoon, that's a place, it's our dirt. Cause to make it in this game, you can't be insecure. So many people tend to get lost in the tracks, and then nobody helps them and they don't bring it back. But when you hear these tracks, you'll feel right at home. It's for all the underdogs so they won't feel alone. Nevertheless, I put my rhymes to the test. Should I invest in the quest to becoming the best? Dreamcast and Derelict, bringing you another track, so just turn off your genre if it's something you can hack. It's the LOWRYZE. Make your MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feel in the mood. It's the LOWRYZE.
If you have been grown as, you do not have to shave off this part of your face right. The doctors don't exempt
Stand up if you feel in the mood.
because that's all about
Chronic and hotbox cars.
Canadian
And I
forces
still
were
choke
ordered
writing
to wall
16
5
bars.
years ago to
The crew
stop wearing
damage
the
many scars.
uniforms
Late
in
at night
public.
writing under the stars. Fate fades
Remember
of war. That's why I'm so hardcore. Found to be sold in stores. Me and Derelict, the definition of evil. Fierce to the feeble, like the tip of a needle. The way my soul say people. I take stages, smear ink all over the pages. You want to battle with the fuck of the wages. I'm serving baseless and violent outrageous. Like all of this can't be caseless.
I'm not
They say
breaking
everything I
no
write
laws
is
for fucking
tasteless.
not following
That's
any.
why
I'm following all the fucking rules. People don't realize I have to follow 6 sets of rules, eh?
Serving its purpose like the Canadian military service. Got you shaking nervous. Like there's a hole in your epidermis. No
The
soul
rest
to
of
the
you are
worthless.
fucking
Go ahead and
worthless.
say my name, cursed it. Couldn't control it, had to disperse it. Now my shirt's ripped. It's the
Like them church kids, it's my church tongue
LOWRYZE.
that hurts
Make
me.
your
This
MCs
verse is
freeze,
the
bitch,
worst
believe
in
me.
me.
You can only wish to do the things that we do in your 6. Stand up if you feel in the mood. It's the LOWRYZE. Make your MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feel in the mood.
Track, the first 30 seconds is already loaded. It's already loaded. As it knows, this one's almost over, and the playlist says the next one is. Unless I skip it, if I skip it right now, it will fuck up. Because it's in the last few seconds, it's the only time it'll fuck up. It'll skip to the next track, but it's trying to download both at once, so it takes a second. And if you catch it in between tracks and you use the wrong interface to click the button to tell it to go to the next track, it might just freeze and stop playing. It's a doctor. H5N1 to Tennessee. I don't know which one had egg. Some with a 7, some with a 5, and some with a 9. There's 2 of them. H1 had 1 and there's 2 others. I think it was 5 and 7 and 8, 7 and 9. I think. Nine, 10, and 11, motherfuckers.
Make you wanna pull it out a limo, I'll be up and out. It's how you all up in the fire, shining like a star. They know who we are, they know who I am, motherfucker from the chase. They know who I am, motherfucker, get acquainted. I be so high, nothing wrong push. Never need to worry, I get it by the bush, and I get it by the pound. You people saying I'm the best and all the best of them.
Just that you would motherfucker. What are you trying to do? Oh, good. Let's do this.
Stupid chunk, I don't think you heard. If you're looking for me, I'll be on the block. Same cop, possibly sitting on the ground. Haters wanna hate, chase bodies on the spot. When haters dismiss, they get popped on my block. Like everybody acting like they ain't got reaction. Like people on the block, I call it ain't transaction. Like you don't fuck with flapping like come on, baby, pass on like game ain't over. This is still good action. Like
oh yeah, this always had clicking on some of the Spain always brings everything up.
Knocked out, you're out on my block. I got the steel cock shout. If you ain't on top, and then a boy call me rich man. Call me pretty boy, still on my hit man. I ain't got this shit in Georgia.
It doesn't work with itself.
Stupid joint, can't stay, no good to stay. Superfly, fish up in my love. Everywhere and things you never gonna rock. Sucker try to jack me, introduce him to the clock. Tell the haters suck my cock. Tell the ladies that I love them. She said they wanna get with me, so I think above them. I like them all fucking. I've been coming back with the sick shit. Girl be staring at me once I have them on my dick. Quicker than you motherfuckers ever did. I'm never sick.
Really?
Get back for me, so sick with the accuracy. Step the fuck away, don't do average shit, ain't no match in me.
Holy fuck, yeah. It's reporting to you first, and then the fucking Google, and then the fucking YouTube. And I know there's 4 fucking things being checked here.
That shit a part of it, I fucking started it. I got pneumonia.